Once upon a time, in the ancient city of Jerusalem, nestled amidst the rugged hills of Judea, there lived a man named Zachariah. He hailed from a lineage of revered priests and was known for his piety, wisdom, and unshakable faith in God. From his earliest memories, Zachariah felt a deep calling within him, an urging to serve God and his people. He spent countless hours within the sacred walls of the temple, studying the scriptures, attending to the sacred duties, and engaging in fervent prayers. Zachariah's devoutness knew no bounds, but there was a void in his life, an unfulfilled wish that weighed heavily on his heart. He was married to a woman named Elizabeth, who was equally righteous and God-fearing. However, their years of togetherness were marked by an absence, a void that echoed with the silence of an empty cradle. As they aged, the hope of having a child dwindled, for Elizabeth had long passed the age of bearing children. The laughter of a child, the pitter-patter of tiny feet, the joy of raising a family. They all seemed like distant dreams for the elderly couple. One day, while fulfilling his sacred duties within the temple, Zachariah was chosen for a divine encounter. As he stood by the altar, offering prayers, an angel suddenly appeared before him, startling him with its radiant presence. "Fear not, Zachariah, for your prayer has been heard," spoke the angel, his voice gentle yet imbued with authority. "Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall name him John." Zachariah stood in awe, his heart pounding, struggling to fathom the miraculous announcement. "How can this be?" he asked in disbelief. "Elizabeth and I are old, far beyond the years of bearing children." The angel revealed his identity as Gabriel, the messenger of God. "I am Gabriel, sent to deliver this good news," he explained. "But because of your disbelief, you shall be mute and unable to speak until the day these things come to pass." Zachariah, still processing the astonishing revelation, exited the temple and returned to his awaiting congregation. He gestured to them, trying to convey the divine message, for his voice had been seized as a sign of the angel's words. Elizabeth, secluded within the privacy of her home, was soon visited by the angelic news. As the days passed, the promise of God came true, and Elizabeth, despite her age, felt the stirrings of life within her womb. Filled with immense gratitude, she marveled at the divine intervention that had made the impossible possible. She secluded herself in those precious months, cherishing the life growing within her, rejoicing in the blessing bestowed upon her by the Almighty. As the appointed time approached, she went into labor. In the stillness of her home, surrounded by loved ones, she gave birth to a son. The child's cry filled the air, and the room was suffused with an aura of sacredness. "He shall be called John," Elizabeth announced, her voice resolute and filled with joy. The news of this miraculous birth spread like wildfire throughout the community. The elderly couple, once barren and seemingly devoid of hope, were now blessed with a son named John, a name that would resonate with holiness and divine purpose. Young John grew into a remarkable child, displaying qualities of compassion, humility, and an innate connection with the divine. He was drawn to nature, spending hours in quiet reflection, contemplating the signs of God's creation and seeking to understand the purpose of his existence. His spirituality blossomed with each passing day, and the wisdom he possessed seemed beyond his tender age. John embraced the life of a pious recluse, spending much of his time in prayer and devotion, preparing for the extraordinary journey that lay ahead. As John matured into adulthood, he received divine revelations and guidance. God had chosen him to be a prophet, a messenger tasked with guiding the people towards righteousness and a life devoted to God. Filled with a sense of duty and purpose, John embarked on his prophetic mission, preaching the message of God's oneness, compassion, and justice. He called upon the people to live lives of virtue, to shun sinful ways, and to turn to God with repentance and sincerity. The message of John resonated with the hearts of the people, stirring a transformation within them. They flocked to him, seeking guidance and solace, drawn to his aura of holiness and the divine wisdom that emanated from him. John chose the riverbanks as the backdrop for his teachings, a place where nature mirrored the purity and sanctity of his message. He baptized the people in the river, a symbolic act signifying their purification and readiness to turn their lives towards God. One day, a young man named Jesus approached John at the riverbank. Jesus, who would later be known as a great prophet, stood before John seeking to be baptized.
"I should be baptized by you, and yet you come to me," John said, hesitating, recognizing the sanctity within Jesus. Jesus, with a gentle smile, replied, "Let it be so now. It is proper for us to do this to fulfill all righteousness." John understood the significance of Jesus' mission and baptized him, affirming the divine purpose that lay ahead for Jesus. Confronting injustice and corruption. During his ministry, John fearlessly confronted the injustices and corrupt practices prevalent among the ruling elite. He spoke out against their exploitation of the poor and vulnerable, challenging their moral decay and abuse of power. In a society where the voice of the oppressed often went unheard, John's courageous stance brought hope to the downtrodden. They found solace in his words, drawing strength from the message of justice and righteousness. However, this uncompromising stance against the powerful and corrupt soon led to John's arrest. He was imprisoned, but even in captivity, he continued to spread the message of truth and faith. The martyrdom of John. As John languished in prison, a celebration was underway in the palace. The king's daughter, Herodias, was celebrating her birthday, and a grand feast had been organized. The opulent festivities were marred by immoral conduct and a pervading sense of decadence. During the festivities, Herodias' daughter, Salome, captivated the audience with her dance. Herod was so pleased that he promised to grant her any request. Encouraged by her mother, Salome requested the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Despite being deeply grieved, Herod felt obligated to fulfill his promise in front of his guests. He ordered John's execution, and a soldier was dispatched to carry out the gruesome act. In the darkness of the prison cell, John remained steadfast, his heart filled with unwavering faith and submission to God's will. As the executioner's sword fell, John's soul ascended to the heavens, leaving behind a legacy of truth, justice, and devotion. Conclusion. The life of Prophet Zachariah and his son, John the Baptist, is a tale of faith, divine intervention, and unwavering commitment to the divine call. Their stories have transcended time, inspiring generations and underscoring the power of faith, prayer, and the fulfillment of God's promises. Through their lives, we are reminded of the boundless mercy of God, the transformative power